All right, thank you everybody for joining my session today on taking Business Central purchasing to new heights. I'm very excited to be presenting for the first time in this all new conference. And I'll introduce myself in a minute, but my name is Shannon Mullins. I am a Microsoft MVP of Business Applications, and I currently work for Morgan Franklin Consulting. And very excited to show you some of the really cool ways that you can take Business Central and use it for your purchasing. So a little bit about me. I am a Microsoft MVP. I run the Microsoft practice here in Nashville. I have been doing all things Dynamics for over 20 years, and I just love all things Microsoft. So really excited to present on any topic related to Business Central, Dynamics 365, and just excited to be here. I also love accounting. I have 2 degrees in accounting, both bachelor's and master's, and I've been teaching in the Dynamics community for over 10 years now. So this was a really exciting opportunity that came up to record this session for John's new event, and I'm very excited to be part of it. So our agenda today, what are we going to cover? We are going to cover a few different things. First, we're going to talk about amazing BC features to consider. So a lot of people start implementing Business Central and they're not aware of all the complexities and cool features that you can use inside of the system. And so they get into the system and they're like, oh, I didn't know that existed, or I didn't know I could do this. So we're going to go over some of those really cool, amazing features that you can consider using with Business Central to make it a better system for your team. We're also going to talk about taking it up a notch. So even though there's features, and we're going to look at them, there are some cool things that you can do inside the application and with some of the add-ons to kind of take it up a notch and make it a really, really nice system. And obviously, you know, use some of those features that are available to you with these new releases that come out every year. So excited about that. And then we'll talk about apping it up. So for those of you who don't know, there is a whole site called Appsource for Business Central, where you can go and buy a whole bunch of different apps or try them for free and add them into your system. And it just takes a few minutes to do so. So we're going to go over that as well and talk about some of the apps that you can add specifically in the area of purchasing, which is awesome. So we'll start off with amazing BC features to consider. What do we look at in BC? What do we want to see? And what we may not know about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is purchase quotes. So a lot of people know about purchase orders. You use purchase orders. You usually have a purchasing manager or maybe teams of people who are going out and purchasing in your system. And one thing to know about Business Central with purchasing is that purchase orders require a full license. So you do have to be a full user on either Essentials or Premium to go in and do purchase orders. To save on licensing costs, you actually can implement a module called Purchase Quotes, which will allow you to have users go into Business Central, create a purchase quote instead of a purchase order, which looks very similar to the purchase order format and feel, and then they can submit that off for approval, and then you can turn that into an order. So why would I use a purchasing quote versus a purchase order? Well, a purchasing quote, you only use a team viewer license. So those licenses run and start around $8 a month per team viewer. That's compared to the $70 or $100 license cost for the other licenses. And then those users are really just doing limited functionality. So they're coming in, they're doing purchase quotes. Maybe they need to look up some stuff in the system, purchases per vendor, their outstanding purchase quotes, but they're not going in as a full user and keying in purchase orders, receipts, invoices, anything like that. The other nice thing I love about it is there's pre-approvals to a purchase order. So I can enter a purchase quote and I can require somebody to approve that before it becomes a purchase order. So that way someone's going in and making sure, you know, this is my spend against my budget. This is pre-approved. This is the right vendor. This is the right item, the right cost. Everything that you need to approve to get a PO out the door to your vendor. So purchase quotes are really, really awesome for that reason. So let's look inside Business Central and take a look at purchase quotes. Now I'm here on my dashboard inside Business Central and I'm logging in. Now I did save purchase quotes and purchase orders onto my homepage because I love to save things onto my homepage, make it really, really easy to find. However, if it's not on your homepage, you would just go in and use the Find Me button and you would just start typing in purchase, and then Business Central will automatically start populating some pages. So over here, I'm just going to do show all to my pages. And you'll notice in here, it'll take me to all of my purchase items. So I have purchase orders and purchase quotes. Going to go ahead and click on purchase quotes. Now, how did I get that to my home page? You see this little bookmark up here because it's currently outlined in dark. That means it is added to my home page. I can always unclick it at any time to unadd it to my home page and then click it again to add it back. Really kind of cool. Another little cool feature for purchase quotes. So a lot of times your vendors are coming in here and maybe they're opening in Chrome or Edge and they've got one browser open, and so they're going through, they want to create the purchase quote, but then maybe they have a vendor invoice that they have in a different browser. They want to open that side by side. Something else that you can do is you can also pop out this window and you can use it as a floating window and then, you know, move it over to your other screen and work from there. So just a kind of a cool tip and trick that you can use for that. You will notice as you go through purchase quotes, and this is really nice for your purchasing people who are doing requests as well. As you click on a purchase quote over here on the right, it will tell you what vendor, it will tell you the email, some information about them. And then also you can attach documents. So one thing I like to tell people with Business Central is to utilize SharePoint or OneDrive to attach your documents. So rather than attach a hard copy of a PDF or a Excel document or a Word document, you can actually put those documents up in OneDrive or SharePoint, take that link, and then attach it here under documents. Obviously, anybody who would access that document would need access to that SharePoint or OneDrive site. However, they would click on that link and it would take them directly to the document up in the browser. So they're not having to download documents, open them, view them, all that kind of stuff. You can just use SharePoint and OneDrive. And then that also ensures that all of your attachments inside Business Central have a backup place, you know, in case you ever need to access them offline. So that's just a cool tip and trick. You can also add notes to any of your documents in Business Central. So if you open up the info panel, if it's ever closed, it's this little eye, you can always add a note. And what I love about notes is they are user and time date stamped. So you can always see who added the note and when they added it. Really easy to view inside Business Central, and then also in Outlook, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. There is Outlook capabilities as well. So I really love that too. All right. So we do have one purchase quote fill it out here, but I'm going to go ahead and fill out a new one. And so I'm just going to click on new. And as a user, it's going to take me into the browser to go ahead and create a new purchase quote. So I can look up vendors a variety of ways. I can look them up by vendor number. I can look them up by name, city, zip code, whatever I want to look them up by. So let's just do node publishers. So I'll just do PUB for publishers. You'll notice it auto filters, and I'll select that vendor. Now, a lot of my things are pre-filled in from the vendor. You'll notice this is my buy from address and my buy from data. So this is who I'm buying from, and typically what would print on that purchase order if I'm printing the purchase order out to the vendor. Over here on the right, I could put a vendor order number. So let's say I ordered from the site, and this is just a purchase requisition or a purchase order. To match that up, I can put their order number over here. I have my purchaser code. Now my purchaser code is tied to a user. So if you have multiple users that are coming in the system doing purchase quotes, you'll assign a purchaser code to them. So you can show how much are you buying per purchaser, how much is people spending per purchaser. You can also spend for campaigns. So maybe you have marketing campaigns and you're buying stuff for an event. I'm going to a conference, I'm going to travel, and I want to assign those things to my campaigns. I can also have campaigns going on inside Business Central and assign those there. I can set up alternate vendor codes and vendor addresses. So if I need to do that, I can do that as well. And then I also can assign these to specific users if maybe I'm buying on behalf of somebody else. I can also do that as well. So just some cool things you can do here with the header. Now down here at the bottom, one thing I love about Business Central purchasing is I don't just have to buy items. I can buy a variety of things. I can buy items, anything in my item list, which is my inventory, or non-inventory, depending on how you set it up. I can also buy GL accounts. So let's just say this is prepaid rent. I could choose prepaid rent as my GL account or any account from the list as long as I have access to it. I can also do resources. So maybe I have a subcontractor and they're a resource and I want to track that time for the subcontractor. I can actually do a PO for resources as well. And then fixed assets. So I'm going to buy a fixed asset. and I want to create this asset right now, and I want to add a purchase quote for it, which will eventually become a PO, and then that asset will become received. I can do that as well. So a variety of things that you can add to this list to buy, which is really great. But let's just say this is prepaid rent. Obviously, this is, you know, just a typical case. But I'm putting a lease payment on a new building. I'm going to go ahead and key that to prepaid rent. I'm going to do a quantity of 2, and I have 2 office spaces at $1,500 a piece. You will notice here I can set up some tax codes and tax groupings. That's all done in your purchasing setup. And you can use products like Avalar and Vertex to calculate your tax, or you can even track use tax if you need to inside Business Central. But you'll notice here it does a lot of calculation for me. Now I don't need to fill in all these pages if I don't want to. I can fill out what I need to fill out and get it done. All right. And then down here I can see some different information like my subtotals and totals, any discount the vendor gave me if I have discounts. And then down here, I can change some of the details. So I can assign this to a department if I need to. All right, and I can choose a different type, like I can code this as different types. I can have different groups in here. So there's a bunch of different things that I can fill out or not fill out. In a second, I'll show you how you can personalize these windows. And by personalize, I mean you can hide any field on the form, or you can rearrange the fields. So if there's field entry and a certain field entry that you want to do, you can also fill that out, which is really great. Now you'll notice over here on the right, I do have some vendor statistics. So without leaving this window, if I'm like, hey, when's the last time we bought from this vendor or paid this vendor, I can see that. I can see the payments we've made to them. I can see the invoices. All that metadata I can actually drill into from here. So as a requisition person, if I have access to this data, I don't have to go to accounting and say, hey, when is the last time we paid this vendor? Or what's my balance? Or what's my credit limit? All of that's going to be right here, along with all the tracking data over here. So what did I pay? How many documents? All of that detail is here, which is great. And again, I can add any attachment that I want from here. Now, you can set up workflow. We'll talk about workflow in a minute, but you can set up workflow for this. So I can send workflow and send an approval request out from this purchase quote. And I can set my workflow rules to say, how much purchasing capability do I have? How much can I purchase? And from that, who has to approve it if I purchase so much? So I can have multiple layers of approvals. I can have that go to different departments. And then I also can set limits that say, hey, if it's over or under this limit, I can approve it myself. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to approvals, because that's one section I want to look at. And when I navigate over to approvals, it's going to show me what happened with that workflow. You'll notice it didn't do anything. So it came in here and it said, this purchase quote is approved. So why is it approved? Well, if I go into my approval settings, I've actually set myself up with $5,000 of approval, and this is only up to $3,000 as my subtotal. So I'm automatically an approver. Really nice, right? Because some people, you don't want to lock them totally down. You'll say they can issue up to $1,000, $5,000, but then after that, they need to go ahead and get approval. So we'll create another purchase quote in just a second, and we'll send that over for approval, and then that will require me to get somebody else to approve it. All right. Something else I really love about these, you do have the ability, this is with the very new release of Business Central, where you can come in and you can attach documents as a PDF to your document. So if I want to print this purchase quote as a PDF and attach it to my document inside so I have a copy, I can absolutely do that, which is really nice. And you'll notice as I printed that, that went over here to attachments and created one document. And I can go ahead and click on that and I can see here, here's my purchase quote. And I can download that and open that up and you'll see that purchase quote, which is really nice. So won't spend too much time doing that. But one nice thing about that is you could actually print to those queues and you can use Power Automate to take your documents out of Business Central and put them up in SharePoint or OneDrive. So those copies that you're making, you can go ahead and send them over to OneDrive, send them over to SharePoint, not have to worry about a backup. So that's a really nice feature that they just got out of there that I really, really enjoy. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this window. And I'm gonna go ahead and close this window as well. I'm gonna come back here to purchase quotes and we're gonna try workflow. So we do like to use workflow And there's a reason for it. I'm going to go ahead and skip to my workflow side and we'll come back to this other side. But why do we like workflow? Well, one, we want to make sure that everything that's going out the door has an approval before it gets to the vendor, right? So we don't want people going out and issuing a $50,000 purchase order, giving it to a vendor, the vendor comes back and gives us a $50,000 invoice, and nobody has seen that invoice. Very frustrating for accounting teams, especially people who are trying to budget and make sure that that is part of the budget. So that's why approvals are so important. So where can you set workflow approvals inside Business Central? Well, you have several different places. Vendors, you can get vendor approval. So you can allow people to set up new vendors, but they do have to get approval. Purchase quotes, which we're talking about now, and then purchase orders. So all three of those levels have different ways that you can get approval. Now, if you're on the payable side, there's also some payables workflows that you can turn on as well. So if you want everything to be approved, purchase quotes, purchase orders, receipts, invoices, the whole 9 yards, you can get everything approved. That's up to you. So it's really how you want to set your system and set that up. But one thing I love about it is you can set those different levels. So my first one I set, it was just $3,000. Let's go ahead and create a new one. And the reason why I want to create a new one is to just show you another cool little tip and trick. So I'm going to go to my settings. Now, whether or not you can do this is going to be based off of your settings inside your company, okay? But there is a feature called personalize. And when you turn on personalize, what you can do is you can add or remove fields, you can hide fields, and then you also can rearrange fields, which I really love. So for instance, vendor order number, vendor shipment number. Let's pretend like I'm never going to use these. I can actually hover on that field and hide it. And I can hover on this field and I can hide it. I can also take fields over here that maybe I need, like purchaser code, and I can move them. Maybe I want to put it over here by address. That's weird, but I could. And maybe I want to put zip code over here instead of address. Why do I want to do that? Well, there is a feature inside Business Central where you can import all the zip codes across the country, across the world. And as you enter a zip code, it will automatically pick up the city and state. Really kind of nice and fancy. Enter your zip code first, get your city and state pre-populated. So those are some cool things you can do. Over here on the right, you can also show or hide different panes over here and move them around as well. And then when you're done personalizing, you just hit done and you're done. You also can move fields here in the line section. So maybe there's some additional columns that you're never going to use. You can move those as well. You can hide them. You can rearrange them. So the nice thing I love about personalization is it really is truly a user experience. We're making the window personalized for the user. We're going to make it ease of access for that user and make it really, really simple for them to enter a purchase quote. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add another one. Let's do Fabricam this time. And the reason I want to do this is I want to go ahead and make this for a bigger amount. So I'm just going to choose an item from here and I'll just do one. Oh, didn't mean to change that. And let's just do 5,000 here. All right. So I have a $5,000 purchase quote now, which is really nice. So I want to submit this one instead of the other one. So I want to make sure that this actually goes through workflow approval. So I'm going to go ahead and request approval. Now, one thing I want to note before I request approval, you'll notice over here, status says open. I'm going to go ahead and request that approval and watch what happens to my status. It's now been released. Oh shoot, I have to make this for over $5,000. Okay, that's okay. We learned our mistake. We'll reopen this purchase order. We're going to add one more item and we'll do one more consulting services. And this time we'll add a little brief description, additional, if I can type. And then we'll do another one. And this time we'll do an extra 1,000 because I was right at the 5,000 mark. So that would have been okay. All right, now it's open. We're going to go ahead and send it for approval again. And now it lets me know. The other times it didn't let me know anything. It was just like, oh, you're done and it's released. And when it's got to that release stage, that means I can now create an order, okay, once it's released. But in this case, it's telling me that an approval request has been sent. So I have a coworker who's going to get that approval email. I won't get it. And then they're going to have to approve it before I can actually release this and create an order. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you'll notice here that it's pending approval. If I go to process and I try to make this an order, It's going to ask me, do you want to convert the quote to an order, meaning quote to purchase order? I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to let me know you have a restriction on this action. You have the purchase quote approval workflow turned on, so I cannot do that. So I'm going to hit OK and say, all right, I'll wait for this one. Got to wait for that one. All right, so that's how you turn them into an order, which you can do from the list or you can do from this window. In here, request approval, you can notice you can send approvals, you can cancel it at any time. Now, if you cancel it, it rolls all the workflow back. You're gonna have to make your changes and push it back forward. But those are different things you can do from here, all right? And then you do have a release button where you can release items and then you can reopen them at any time to make changes. Once the PO has been fully received and printed, there's nothing really you can do with it at that point, but you can do some, go forward and go backs until that's been done. All right, so if I go back to purchase quotes, you'll notice in here, here's my different purchase quotes. Now this one, I'm gonna go ahead and hit select more on, and I'm gonna go to process up here, and I'm gonna go ahead and make this one an order because I didn't need approval. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn that into a quote into an order. So it will automatically take that quote and it's going to turn it into a purchase order, which is really nice. So that purchase order is all ready to go. It's going to take the GL accounts. Over here, it did flow the attachment through that I had on there. So all that's coming through, the price is coming through. As a purchasing manager, I can make some changes here. Do I need to do a prepayment? Do I need to change the payment terms? Is there different things that I need to add to that? Obviously, as a purchasing manager, I can go ahead and do this. And again, if I had 2 levels of approval sent, I could also send an approval request from here. Now, there are different cool things that you can do with Business Central. You can actually go out and you can take and create workflows using Microsoft Flow, which is now called Microsoft Automate, to create flows. And maybe that is a new purchase order is created. So go ahead and send someone an email. So maybe I have a purchasing manager and they want to know every time a new PO is created. I would turn on a flow to run in the background that says, every time there's a new PO, go ahead and send me an email. Let me know that that's there. I can also do cool things like anytime a new PO has been released, go ahead and send that to the vendor and send a letter with it or send an attachment or whatever the case may be. With Microsoft Flow and Automate, you can kind of create your own workflows and your own processes, which is really great. And you can send those out as well. All right, so some cool things we can do there with workflow and purchase quotes. I'm gonna go back a slide here. So another cool thing you can do with this, you can use blanket purchase orders. So let's say there's a vendor and I order something from their monthly. So for example, let's say Node Publishers, every month I pay them for consulting services for publishing things for me. So I want to set up a PO and I don't necessarily need to set up a PO for every invoice because that would be super annoying. So what I'm going to do is I would set up a blanket PO, and in that blanket PO, I would go out and I would say, I'm going to have 5,000 consulting hours over a period of time. And I'm going to go ahead and get that workflow approved. And then every time there's an invoice, I'm going to release a certain amount of hours from that blanket PO. And as I release those hours, it's going to deduct that from that PO balance of what's remaining until that's fully used. And then what I can do with that blanket PO is, let's say they go over those 5,000 hours, I could create another line and I could do consulting services again and start releasing that one. So blanket POs really help you without having to create a PO for each and every little invoice that may come in the door, where you're going to have a lot of reoccurring charges and you don't want to have to keep doing that over and over again. Really good use case there. All right, we covered purchase quotes. So let's talk about purchase advice for a minute. So there are different places inside Business Central where you can get purchasing reports. And one of those reports is the purchase advice report. So the purchase advice report is going to go out. It's going to look at your order quote or your order quantities. And so you're going to set a reorder point. You're going to set a reorder quantity and then a minimum and a maximum for your inventory. Now, you don't have to do this for everything. You can just do this for your regular inventory items, or maybe you have a stock room and you just want to do it for stock items. But based on what's on the PO, based on what's available, and then based on what's coming over in the sales orders, it's going to tell you what you should order along with the lead time. So it's going to do a lead time calculation, and then it's going to tell you what you should order based on what you need. It also will tell you the average daily use. So if you go into purchasing, you can actually come in here and just search for purchase advice. Start typing that in, and that will take you directly to that report. And you set a beginning date and an end date of when you want that to do. You also can tell it whether to include items with 0 reorder or not. Obviously, if I don't have items that I'm requiring 0 reorder, I'll just leave that blank. And then I'm going to preview. And that will take me here. And this is a nice printed report that you can run. So this is really great out of the box. You can download it to PDF. You can just view it, whatever you want to do. But a really great piece inside of Business Central. And it is using Business Central data analytics, which we all know, is going behind the scenes and doing a lot of calculations for you, which is great. Another thing I recommend out of the box to use, purchase budgets. So purchase budgets, they can be used for items, they can be used with dimensions, and they can be edited in Excel or Business Central. So what does that mean? I'm going to go in and I'm going to set a budget by item, and I'm going to budget how much in spend or how much in quantity I'm going to need and forecast that out, by the year, by the month, by the date. And I can go ahead and create that purchase budget. I can edit it in Business Central or in Excel. And then I also can filter it with some dimensions, which is really cool. And then I can compare, especially with quantities, how much did I order versus how much I budgeted, to see how well I'm doing with keeping up my stock, with average days of how long I'm keeping my stock, all those different things I can do. So again, I'm going to use my Find Me feature, and I'm going to go to Purchase Budgets, and that will take me right there. And I'm going to go ahead and edit my budget, and that will take me to that window that I have the screenshot on here. So you'll see you can view this by day, you can view it by week, month, quarter, year, and then you can have different budgets per your items. So just really kind of cool, this whole feature, because it really helps you with analysis on how much you're buying, whether or not that's what you need to be buying. And then in here you can do it by cost or quantity. So how much or how many am I buying, and compare that to your budget, which I really, really love. And then you can do that by department, you can do that by business line, whatever your filters are for your dimensions. You can also do that as well, which I really love as well. So a lot of cool options here. But on actions, you'll notice here in functions, I can go to Excel and I can export this to Excel, and I can also import it from Excel, because everyone's like, I'm not going to fill this out for every single item. However, you could dump all those items to Excel, fill this out at the beginning of the year, import it, and then you can also track your purchase budget, which is really cool. And this will really help if you do have a purchase budget. You can link this to Power BI or other reporting, and you can view those purchase budgets. So as people have those purchase quotes and purchase orders coming through, you can see what's happening with those, which is really great. So I really love that capability for sure. All right, next slide here. Use Subcontractor Worksheet. I'm not going to go too much into this because not everybody uses manufacturing, but I will let you know there is a feature in here called Subcontractor Worksheet. And what that does is, if you have work centers set up in manufacturing, so you have your routings, and your routing is set to a work center, and that work center just happens to be a subcontractor, as manufacturing runs and it gets to that routing, and you use an operation with a subcontractor work center, it will create an entry inside the subcontracting worksheet to create a PO. So it'll say, okay, well, you had a routing, you use this sub, we're suggesting you go ahead and create a PO for that work that was done. So maybe you send metal out to be polished, or maybe you send out, wood to be finished, and it comes back and that's a subcontract, you're going to have to pay them for that work. You can set them up as a work center and then use Subcontracting Worksheet to create the PO. And then you can just receive and invoice the PO as normal. So really nice way to save you money, rather than having to create a PO after the vendor's invoice for you. You'd be creating a PO as you actually do the routing, which is really kind of cool. All right, so taking it up a notch. Obviously, we're seeing some really cool features inside Business Central, but what's some of the cool things that we can do to take it up a notch? So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is purchasing in Outlook. I know that sounds really crazy, but you can actually purchase inside Outlook, which is really great. A lot of people don't know this feature is available. Maybe it wasn't demoed to them, or maybe whoever's doing the demo selection didn't tell them. But this capability is available inside Outlook. Look at it in just a minute. And here's some of the things that you can do. First thing is you can create a vendor contact. So as you get a new vendor, they send you an email, you can actually add them as a contact. I'll show you that in just a minute. And you can add them to one company or multiple companies. You can assign them to just a contact record, or you can assign them to a vendor record. That's really up to you on how you want to assign those. And then you can also create purchasing documents. So those purchasing quotes, purchasing orders, receipts, invoices, anything like that, you can also create those directly from Outlook, which is really nice. And then you can also view your vendor's data. I have a little screenshot over here where as I'm pulling up an email from my vendor, I can actually view their data over there on the right, which I really love. So let's go over here to mail, and I'm gonna go ahead and search this. I'm gonna go ahead and search by one of my employees because I know that he actually has a Business Central piece in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up an email from him, and I'm just gonna click on Business Central Contact Insights, all right? So what this is doing is it's going out and it's reading him, and it's going out and it's reading him as a vendor. Now he's a vendor in 2 different companies, and he's also a customer. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this is with Fabricam, I'll use today, and then we'll pull up Fabricam. So this is really cool. So in here, you can go in and you can see, here are the different documents. Here's the balances, here's the orders, here's everything that you need. And so you can come in and you can click on balance, and you can see the balances. And I can drill over here and I can see the totals for those documents. I can go back, I can see outstanding orders. I can see purchase lines, and then I can also see overdue amounts. So if the vendor calls me and says, I don't have a balance due with you, or you have a balance due with me, or whatever the case may be, then over here you can see those overdue documents. Everything in red means it's past due, which is not good. So I definitely want to take care of that. All right, so those are some cool things you can do there. You can also see the vendor history down here. If you want to, you can add links. So you can link up for different, URLs. Maybe the vendor has somewhere where they want you to upload things. Maybe the vendor has places where you need to click on a link to upload an invoice for them or submit a PO. You can add those links here. And then you can also add notes. Now, whatever you add here is going to show up inside Business Central. So we'll just add a test note to this and hit OK. And that will go ahead and publish that over to Business Central. If I come over here to the far right, I can change my company, and I can go into any of my companies. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Kronos, because that's the one I'm working in right now for this presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and add him as a contact to Fabricam over here as well. Oh, actually, I'm going to add him as a person to Fabricam. That's my bad. There we go. And then go ahead and save them. And now that will pull up Fabricams. So you can have people that work for multiple companies and multiple databases, and you can associate their email address with these different things, which is really kind of cool. All right. So in here again, I can see the statistics. I can go in and I can add a note. If I want to add a note, I'm in a whole different company and create that note. And then from here, you can also see different things that I can do. Now, you cannot pay vendors. I don't know why that's an option here. You cannot pay them or create payments, but you can send different documents for approval. You can send vendors for approval. You can navigate to contacts, bank accounts, document layouts, purchasing documents. You can view the vendor's dimensions, so their department, their line of business that they're associated with, and you can also add comments and attachments from here. So some really cool things. Other thing that you can do, purchase invoice, purchase order, purchase credit memo. So if I wanted to create a PO for Fabricam directly out of Outlook, I can do that. Now it's coming in here and it's finding items that you buy from this vendor frequently. Remember, I bought consulting services. So that's one of the items that it's recommending. And then it's also recommending lamps. I guess I bought lamps from them. So I'm just gonna uncheck lamps and check consulting services because I bought that from them. Hit OK, and that's going to go ahead and create a PO. I created a PO just like that, which is really cool. So now in here, I can come in and I can put the dollar amounts for those lines and create that PO. I can put any discount that I need to put in. I can change the currency code, the departments, everything like that, just like I normally would. And then from here, I can do different things. I can post it. I can post it and print it. I can preview posting. I can post a new. And then also, if I have workflow turned on, I can send for approval. So these are all things that I can do directly from here, which is really kind of cool. So you can also print to attachment. So if you want to print a copy of the PO here, you don't want to send it to them directly yet, you can also do that. So these are all cool things that you can take up a notch inside Business Central, inside Outlook. I will note it that I am in Outlook in the web, in the Microsoft 365 world. If I want a bigger window to key those documents in, I would recommend Outlook Desktop. I don't normally use Outlook Desktop, but if you want a bigger window to work in, Outlook Desktop has a bigger window. So you can have a little bit more real estate to work in there. All right, pretty cool though, those features. And I did want to show you here, I'm going to go ahead and go out to my vendors and let's go ahead and pull up Fabricam. And I'm going to click on their information panel. And then over here, here's that note I added in Outlook. Remember, I didn't leave Outlook. I didn't go anywhere else. I was in Outlook. There's that Outlook. And then if I go to details, I can actually go in here into orders, purchase orders, and I can pull up this order and see that information that I was just entering, which is really cool. And then here's the other PO that's open for them. So these are all things that I can do directly from here and then go ahead and save that. So really kind of cool things that you can do with Outlook with Business Central that I love. All right. Use purchase views. So this is a really kind of a cool feature too. You will notice that as I created POs and as I created quotes, it is creating a list. So if I click on purchase orders or purchase quotes, the first thing it does is it takes me to a list, which is fine. But I may want lists specific to me. So maybe I work with one major vendor, or maybe I work with one major location or something like that. And I want to quickly filter through this list and just see my open POs, or just see my POs that haven't been released. So something you can do in here is you can filter these. Now to turn the filter off, you click on this little filter button. To turn it back on, you turn it back on. And then over here, you can add any kind of filter. So if I want to go in here and say status is equal to open, or status is equal to released, I can choose those statuses, okay? And then if I want to add another filter and say the buy to vendor number is 1,000, or 10,000, I should say, I can do that. And that will give me Fabricam's open purchase orders. And then maybe I just want ones that have an amount greater than 0. I can add one more filter and say amount is greater than 0. 0.0. Okay, so that's going to give me open orders with an amount greater than 0. And now I want to save this as a view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little pencil and I'm going to say Fabricam open orders greater than 0. That's easy, right? So now when I come into purchase orders, I can actually come in and bookmark this view, or from all, if I click on all, I can just go and click on open orders greater than 0, and that downloads my list. Now, in case you didn't know, you can always take these lists and you can edit or open them in Excel directly from Page. So if you need to view them in Excel, you got really big lists, you don't want to look in this interface, you can do that. You can also sort these views, ascending, descending, any column. You can also use personalization to change the column order. So maybe you dump this to Excel and you're having to do a copy and paste and move all your columns all over. You don't really have to do that here. You can actually just do that directly from the interface, which is pretty cool. So use those purchase views. You have those with purchase orders, you have those with purchase quotes, invoices, all those things, which is really cool. Purchasing Jet Reports. So there is a tool called Jet Reports. It allows you to connect your BC data in Excel to Business Central. And what does that allow you to do? That allows you to go in and view a lot of really great out-of-the-box reports. A couple of them that they have are like vendor activity reports, vendor balance, biggest vendors, smallest vendors, vendor changes, vendor trial balance. All of those are Excel-based reports that all connect with your Business Central data. and allow you to refresh it directly in Excel without having to refresh it in the cloud browser. I really, really like this capability. Now, Jet does cost a little bit extra per month, but it is a really, really great way to take your data up a notch. If you're having to run a lot of different reports and just get real KPIs, real data, real reporting, I really love it. And then the other cool thing about Jet is you can actually drill from Business Central into Excel, which is really kind of cool. So you can, drill into that data. You can view the data inside Business Central, but you're also running those KPI data directly within the Excel platform. So I love Jet Reports. Great way to take it up a notch with your purchasing. Using job queues. So there is the capability inside Business Central to set up job queues. You can set up job queues for posting and printing your purchasing documents. So you can set up a job to run every night or every other night or once a week to go ahead and post and print documents with a certain status. And you can have those print to a PDF. You can have those print to Word, whatever you want those to print to, SQL reporting, whatever the case may be. And you can put those out in folders and those jobs will go ahead and run for you. So you don't have to individually post or individually print these orders, which is really nice. So in your payables and purchasing setup, that is an option that you have that I love, that you can set up and take that up a notch, save yourself some time. All right, last topic that we have, App It Up. So for those of you who have never been out to Appsource before, Microsoft has a really great Appsource. It is where you go out and you're going to buy apps designed specifically for Business Central that are easily installed inside Business Central. Now, something I love about Appsource is most of the vendors who are selling apps that work with Business Central, they offer them for free. So you can actually install them, recommended in your sandbox, into Business Central and test them out before you buy them. So usually they give you like a 30-day trial and you can try different things and make sure that you actually like them before you go on and buy them. So hundreds of apps and extensions directly for Business Central. They have purchasing add-ons. So for instance, there's add-ons like Punch Out. So maybe you need Punch Out capabilities. There's add-ons for EDI. There's add-ons for vendor customer consolidation. There's going to be add-ons for vendor quote management, vendor bank approvals, portals, different things like that. So a lot of different add-ins out there. I will say that every time I hear back from Microsoft and how many apps have been released, there seems like 50 to 100 every month. So a lot of people building for Business Central, adding really cool extensions that will just take Business Central to a whole new level, which is great. And they're very easy to add. Every integration has to be automatic with your system. So it's reading your Office 365 credentials. It's going to ask you, do you want to install this into your sandbox or production? And then you're on your way, you're ready to go. And these apps and these extensions, they have to automatically upgrade just like your Business Central system. So if you're using Business Central Cloud and you want these to automatically upgrade, they are required to do so by Microsoft, who governs Appsource, which is really great. I have added some Appsource links out here. So if you want one specific to vendors or you want one specific to purchasing, you can actually just come out here and click these links and it will take you directly out there and you can view those apps that are available. There's, like I said, hundreds of them. I think 918 just for Business Central alone, which is pretty cool. And so that will take you out there. You can kind of filter through those and you can see, what do you need? So app results just for Business Central, 918. And then I can add one more filter up here for vendors if my page reloads. I can add one more filter for vendors and filter that down even further, which is really nice. Oh, it finally filtered. I brought up the page and then filtered. But you can see in here, here's all the different apps for that. Now, one thing I love about that is you can see here, get it now. You can contact the vendor to try it, or you can just get a free trial on some of these. So let's just click on free trial and see what it does. You have to click OK to give Microsoft permission to use your account. Not everybody loves that, but that's what it's gonna make you do. And then if I'm a power user, it's gonna ask me, where do I wanna install that? I do have 3 sandboxes. If you didn't know, you get 3 sandbox Business Central running at one time. And I can go ahead and install that in my sandbox, which is really cool. And it will just go ahead and install, takes a few minutes, you come back, it's loaded into your sandbox and you can try it out. So I really love those capabilities that you have. So there are vendor ones, there's purchase ones, and then there's one for pretty much anything under the sun, collections, payments, whatever the case may be. So if you need any recommendations for apps to add to Business Central to make purchasing better, feel free to reach out with my contact information. So that's the end of my presentation. I thank everyone for coming. There are ways to follow me or contact me. Here I have listed my Twitter and LinkedIn accounts. I post a lot of material weekly and monthly on Business Central and new things coming to Business Central, so make sure you follow me. And then here is also my contact email in case you need to reach me for any reason, for any questions you may have about purchasing inside Business Central. And I hope everyone enjoys their conference, and thanks for attending my session.